have a good time. Now, Jeremy, you look spooky.
Gonna need you to take this a little more seriously, big brother.
Thank you. Oh yeah. Were you doing that on purpose?
Of course he was.
That was my my light. I just set it up underneath on my desk, so it's shining up against my chin instead of up at my face.
Yeah, we noticed. All right. So it is 5:09. We're gonna try to do like 30 minutes. And
Okay.
we're just gonna chat. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna put our opinions out there. We're gonna you might talk about dad, you might talk about your beliefs as a dad, blah, blah, blah. Same questions as the other night.
Honestly, we did do this once already.
Yes, we did. You got to practice. So
Yeah.
I'll have a pause as we start, and then there will be a pause when I finish, so
Ooh.
I have a place to cut.
So don't start yet.
Oh, that's better, Jeremy. We saw you go, whoop.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just gotta put it up a little bit so we can see the top of your head. Oh, no. Oh, that's weird. Oh, thank you, boy. This is really good. Here's how it is with my voice. I'm gonna put a bleeper out there. This is what happens when you try to podcast with your sons. Okay.
It was better when we were in person.
Y'all behaved very nice
when
we were in person. But that fan over our heads was making a whoo, 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 whoo noise. So there it went. Okay, you are looking good, and I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to start, and I'll start talking just like I did the other night, and we'll keep rolling, and yeah, because I don't stop. We can just keep going. All right, you ready?
Yep.
If you need to take a drink, you can pick it up. Just don't disappear. Don't disappear. All right, here we go. Yeah, you could take a turn. Go ahead.
I mean, everyone else had a drink.
That's right. Trying to figure out Jeremy's background. Okay.
I keep wanting to touch my computer, but I'm not here for the computer.
Yeah, I unplugged mine from my monitor, so I wouldn't be looking at my email. It's hard.
I know. All right. I'm ready. Let's go.
Welcome to Georgia Football and Fatherhood. Today I've got my sons, Jeremy and Josh. I want to say hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Let me say, it's a little challenging whenever you're doing a podcast with your sons because I'm not so sure they take me seriously, but we're going to have a good time today. We're going to talk about fatherhood, our experiences with their dad, and what all they think about being a father. And did you know that dads have needs? Yeah, they get ignored a lot of the time, but they have needs too. Hi, I'm Connie Durham, and I am your host of The Extraordinary Marriage. Okay, so guys, let's start the party. Are you ready?
Yep.
Ready when you are.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is Georgia football because we all have memories from the time y'all were babies, and I have memories before that when all the guys got together for Georgia football. So when I mention football, what does it make you think about when you think about your dad?
I'd say it makes me think about spending time with my family and that kind of thing. Togetherness, camaraderie, just that sense of like spending time with your dad. Like it's a special time that we all look forward to.
Awesome. How about you, Josh?
I agree with him. It really is more about spending time together and the time with family and friends and that fellowship together. I still very much enjoy the games, but I don't think I'm nearly as passionate a fan as I was before I had 9 kids. And it's more about that. It's almost it's fellowship and kind of a break, right? I mean, like it's one of the it's I'll speak for Jeremy, but it's like I feel like I work most of the time, and when I'm not working, I'm working on other things or doing stuff around the house, and it's one of the few things that I actually will sit and take time out for. And so that and the fellowship it's very much needed. I wish it was more than 15, 16 weeks a year, but it's something I look forward to all year round.
Okay, so for me, whenever I think about Georgia football, I think about all the guys coming together. And number one, I think about how much my husband loves football. And he loves football even more with his sons. And so it's not the same when you're yelling at the TV by yourself. So when I think about Georgia football, I think about lots of noise and lots of hollering at the TV and a bunch of crazy men.
Well, it's hard to yell at the TV by yourself. It's just not the same. Like there's no one there
Kind
to
of
hear it.
embarrassing, actually, if you're by yourself yelling at the TV. It scares the dogs.
All right, so we all agree that there's a lot of yelling at the TV when there's Georgia football going on. All right, so let's get serious. Let's look at this. So, what do you find yourself doing that your dad did? You know, there's that stuff that you're like, I'm never going to do that, but your dad did it. What do you find that you do that your dad did?
Actually, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I definitely do that thing where I will walk into a room and the TV's on, and I'll stop and I'll stand there and look at the TV, but not pay attention to anything else that's going around around me. So I know I picked that up from him because I've seen him do that numerous times.
Okay, so I know there's a bunch of women out there. They're going, "Oh yeah, my husband does that." Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really bad habit. I have that as well. And I mean, like, for instance, Charlie is 1 year old, and we found that turning on Super Mario Brothers, the little animated movie, like that gets her, like she watches that and like tunes out and like falls asleep on the couch. I've seen that movie 15 times, maybe 20, and still like Justine will be trying to say something to me, and I'm watching that movie. Like I start watching it, even though I've seen it and frankly don't care about it. I'm tuned in, and I don't hear anything. Like it's not just like I'm not ignoring her. I don't hear anything.
Okay, so I think is this a fatherhood thing? You know, do anybody relate to that? That your husband tunes out when he walks in and looks at the TV? Oops, that's not where we're going today, though. We're honoring fathers.
We're celebrating fathers.
We're celebrating men. We're celebrating fathers.
To
Okay.
answer your question, as far as things I picked up from our dad, generally fixing things. I'm a fixer. I know Jeremy's the same way.
I would agree.
And fixing cars, fixing we have a fence that was falling over in our backyard. So it's like I took a pole out, replaced the pole that was routed out, like did all that, cut the wood. And those are all skills that I picked up from watching dad.
Okay, so I like that because I'm not very good at fixing things. And my husband, he just jumps up and fixes whatever needs to be done most of the time. Most of the time. So I think that's a talent to have that because I realized that all men don't have that ability to fix things. And I know if I take things apart, I don't know how to put them back together. So that's not one of my talents. So it is important. Okay. So y'all learned, Josh, you learned to fix things. And all right. So this kind of goes along with that. What are 3 things that y'all have learned from your dad? I mean, this can be anything that you've learned, how to deal with things in life, how to deal with family, what responsibility is. There's a plethora of things. So, anybody got a couple or a few?
I would probably say I learned from dad how to treat other people. Number one.
Okay.
I learned how to treat my significant other correctly, which my wife definitely appreciates. Um, there's just like so many different like things that we learn, not just from dad, but from you too. But, there's specific things being a man that you learn from your father. And like,
Can't learn that from me.
right. And like how to tie a tie. Or you just get dad to tie your tie for you and you leave it tied forever. I don't know
That was me for quite a few years of that. He tied a tie and I had it on the hanger in the closet for, I'm going to say, a shamefully long amount of time, actually. And I never did learn the Windsor knot from dad. I know he showed me like 3 or 4 times, and I ended up going on YouTube and finding an easier knot to tie. But yes, I'll echo what Jeremy said. I mean, like how to treat your spouse is probably the biggest thing. If you don't have peace in your own home, then you have peace nowhere, right? And I think that setting that precedent of how you treat your spouse or significant other really sets you up for success at home. And not everything that you do that sets up for success is always going to be successful, but what you can control is how you set it up, right? So you can set it up for success, and sometimes things don't work out, but for the most part, when you do things the correct way, they come back to you the correct.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in. I like the part about treating your spouse well. That old golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, because I have learned after living in a bubble through all these years that there are many spouses that don't treat their spouse so nice. And sometimes we become reactive when our spouse is not treating us nice, and then we're not treating them nice either. So I do like that. Yeah, he set a wonderful example on that. All right.
Another thing that I just thought of because of what you said, and because I went through a relationship where my spouse didn't treat me so well, right? So I think on top of treating your spouse well, it's you treat other people well no matter how they're treating you. Like how people treat you doesn't matter. That's not part of the details. It's not a tit for tat. It's not oh, well, you were nice to me, I'll be nice to you. Like, you're kind to everyone, regardless of whether they deserve it or not. So I'd say that's something else that like Dad's really good about, that I try to mirror for sure. I mean, of course, I'm human, and we have our moments where, someone's cut you off in traffic and you have not nice thoughts. But for the most part, I do think it's hard to go wrong when you treat people with kindness.
Well, Josh, I'm going to add to that too, that it is what we practice. And whenever we have had someone who shows us how to act, and we kind of mirror that, it's kind of like that old story about whoever you're around the most, you become like that person, like, or a gang of people, not a gang, but your group of people you hang around. Whoever you hang around the most, you become like that person, or like those people. So, and then we practice, how we want to be. We practice that.
Like earlier when the child walked in the room behind me, even though it's blurred, you can still kind of see it. I didn't yell at her because I was being kind.
Okay. So kids, when you got that many kids in the house, somebody's going to walk in, right?
It's inevitable.
And it's after school too today. So,
yes.
All right. All right. So, other things you guys can think of. I mean, I know I'm one of your parents, but parents shape us in such a big way. Sometimes we don't realize till later in life, because whenever you are the age you guys are, y'all are so busy with your families, you don't really think about that stuff. You just keep moving.
Yeah,
I mean, keep moving forward pretty much at all times.
That's it. That's it. All right. Something else that you learned from Dad.
I definitely learned how to work on cars, which has come in handy, when you need something fixed and you don't have $1,000 to pay someone else to do it, you can do it yourself. And that definitely comes in handy. And most of that I learned just from watching him and handing him tools while he was working on our cars, because he had to do the same thing. So, that definitely has come in handy as far as like life lessons.
We know a lot of people don't even think about the fact that when there's a repair to be made or something to be done, they don't even think, well, I wonder if I could do that. And that kind of goes back to parents too. Like if your parent had a lot of money and they paid and they got everything done for them, then, you don't even have to learn those skills. But, if you're on a tight budget, which a lot of people are on a tight budget, you sometimes have to stop and think, well, you know what? I wonder if I could do that myself. Honestly, you know what? You can find everything on YouTube and figure it out, right? These days, everything's on YouTube. And so you can figure it out if you're willing, and if you have, like, I don't know if I could on some things, but I could do wallpaper, but maybe not take a TV apart,
Yeah.
I mean, taking it apart's easy. It's putting it back together correctly that's the difficult part.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. More than 3 parts, I can't get it back together. No. So, all right. Yeah, Dad was great at putting things together. All right. So I think about a favorite memory. I find so often that hard memories in life really stick with us better than wonderful memories. And sometimes when we stop and we start to dig a little bit, we think about those things that were wonderful or precious, or a lot of times that's when somebody's gone, we remember those great things about them where maybe we didn't do that before. But favorite memories, can y'all think of some fun stuff that you did that sticks in your head?
I mean, we had lots of family vacations, and like going to the beach and going to Callaway Gardens and things like that as a kid. I mean, I remember those things well. I'd say not necessarily a specific memory, but memory in general of Dad was always there. Like he always, like, we played baseball, we played football, we played, church sports or whatever. Dad was always there. He was always involved. He was always encouraging. So for me, I'd say it's that string of memories across all of that stuff. A specific memory. I was not a child. I was mid-20s. So like 2 years ago, right? So I had been working out at the gym quite a bit. I had been like lifting heavy, and I remember like my arms were done for the day. Like I had nothing left in my arms, and I was changing the oil on my car, and I went to get the bolt off, and it was not moving. And I mean, like, I'm a pretty strong guy, so there's a little bit of pride in there too. Of like, I tried and tried and tried, couldn't get that bolt off. So I called Dad, and Dad came over right away and got the bolt off. I loosened it for him, obviously, but it was one of those things. I just had nothing left in my arms, like I couldn't turn it. So he came over and popped that bolt off so I could finish, because I'd already like taken the filter off, and like I was past the point of no return, right? It had to happen. So that's just a perfect example of like when he was there, when I needed him.
And that's always a great memory, that your father was there when you needed him. All right, Jeremey?
I would concur with Josh that Dad has definitely always been there if we needed him. I think that just is partially, the fact that he was a great dad, but he's also a great person. So that, like, it helps. I can tell you one of my like biggest memories of Dad that was something that, like, you remember forever was, I think I was about 11 or 12, and we went to Disney, and we had gone to Epcot all day, walked around, in the brutal June or July heat, maybe May, but so we had all like hooped it all day long, and it's time for the fireworks, and Dad ended up carrying not just Josh and Melissa, who were like 5 and 8, but also me, who was 11 or 12, ran all the way around the entire lake to get us to where we needed to watch the fireworks. And still to this day, I don't really know how he managed to carry all of us, but he did. So, that's just something I remember.
I don't even remember that. I might have been younger than 5.
You were little. Yeah, you were little, Josh. And I think that we had to like hurry to get around. And the only way to move fast with little kids is to pick them up and go. And I guess I'm kind of small, so maybe I couldn't run quickly with a baby or a small 2 or 3-year-old in my hands. But also, Dad is like that. He just like takes care of stuff. So yeah, I think that's a really cool memory, because whenever, Jeremey, when you say that, it brings it back to me. And I remember him. I remember thinking, how in the world can he carry all those kids? But you guys are only like, Jeremey, you're the oldest, and then Melissa's next, and Josh is the youngest. And all of y'all were born exactly within 5 years, because Jeremey, your birthday's 31st of October, and Joshua's is November 4th. So basically, literally Melissa in the middle, 5 years. So yeah, Dad was always there. He's always go give, and he's always doing for others, and he'll just drop what he's doing and come help you. He's really good that way. So cool. Well, so let's get into another area, and let's think about our families and that kind of thing. So what kind of problems do kids have when they have no father. This is something I have found really, really hard. I've just kind of woke up to it, and I've realized that there's so many kids living with no father, where moms are raising their kids, and once in a while it's dads raising the kids with no mom. But it's a hard thing. What do you think are the important things that kids miss when their fathers don't take a responsible time with them? And they might be separated or divorced, but yet being there for your kid when you say you'll be there. But what kind of problems do kids have when dad's not around or dad didn't keep his word?
It causes a lot of issues, like, because they don't have that like, if their dad's not in the picture, they don't have that person who, especially for boys. I know it's important for girls too, but like, as a guy, you need that male figure to emulate. And normally, if you don't have a father figure, you're going to emulate some other male figure in your life, and for the good or for the bad, you know, whether it's one of your friends or, somebody else, you're going to find somebody who you're going to learn from, but you might not learn like you should learn to be a great father and a great man.
Okay, so Jeremy, I'm going to take that and I'm going to say something that I've found as I've worked with um, couples is that when there's not a male to emulate, to get that sample of how I'm supposed to act, or somebody emulates bad behavior, I think that happens a lot because young men don't have that masculine figure to look up to, or to, like you said, to emulate or to encourage them or show them the ropes or that kind of thing. So fathers are very important. And being with my two sons here, I'm going to say sometimes in society, I'm glad women can do so many things, but sometimes we start to push the men out of our lives and not let them step up, not let them step up. And then there's men who just don't step up. But what do you think, Josh?
So, I mean, I agree with Jeremy. I do think that, we're very much designed to be raised. All right, got a tickle. Um, by a mother and a father. It takes a mother and a father to make a baby. It makes logical sense that that's how a baby should be raised. And sons and daughters learn different things from mothers and fathers. Like we were talking about earlier, things we learn from dad and how to treat your spouse. And so for Melissa, she would have learned from dad how she should be treated by her spouse. And what that does is it sets you up for you set your expectations, so when then you're not getting that expectation, like, why are we not getting this? Like, maybe this is not necessarily the right person for me. It should help in that dating scenario. And to Jeremy's point about, if there's not a father figure in the household, and I know primarily when there's a parent missing, that's the one who's missing normally is the father. They emulate whomever, or when girls will look to guys to fill that role, and they have other issues down the road. So
Yeah.
the difference is, even if you're emulating a positive fatherly role model, that positive fatherly role model is not pouring love and encouragement and is not there for you, right? So you can look up to different people and you can have role models, but there's no replacing a father. You either you have a father or a stepfather or an uncle who fills that role, and there can be positive role models there from people who are actually in your life. But when you're searching for something that you don't have, and they may not even realize that's the issue, right? That's one of those things. A lot of people benefit from talking to someone about things like that because they'll discover, oh, this is the issue that I have, right? So I think that it can lead to just a myriad of problems. And again, you can still have someone who's well adjusted and turns out just fine, but there may be some things like with how they feel, right? Like there's a lot of people walking around who look absolutely okay. Maybe
Yeah.
it's one of the happiest people and then when they're by themselves, they don't want to be by themselves. So it's issues seen and unseen.
Well, since I deal with relationships and the extraordinary marriage, here we are on that podcast, right? Is what I have found that if you don't have a mom and a dad, then you in your household, then you don't understand how to deal in your relationship. You don't learn how to meet in the middle. You don't know how to give and take. You don't know how to resolve conflict. Sometimes only children have that problem because they don't know how to resolve conflict because they are the only kid. There's nobody to fight with, right? You know, but I think in relationships, when there is a mom and a dad, it's important for kids to see how you resolve things, how you forgive each other, how you move on, how often we're fussing over things that aren't important, and something divides mom and dad, and if they really stop to think about it, it wasn't anything big and they started fussing about it. So kids do need that relationship to so they can learn how to do relationships. All right. So why do men sometimes not step up to the plate? This is a big one. And then we'll get to more fun stuff as we finish today. This is not fun, but it's reality, right?
So I'm jumping on this one first because sometimes the most simple answer is the correct answer, and because it's hard and it's not necessarily what you want to do. I mean, being a father, again, as I mentioned earlier, I have 9 kids. Like, it's not always a rewarding or thanked position, much like being a mom, but not quite as bad. I feel like moms get it worse than dads do, but it is oftentimes a very much a thankless role. Even when you do stuff for your kids, like, you don't ever know. Sometimes kids react in a way that you weren't expecting. Maybe they aren't as happy with something, like you saw something and say, oh, that'll make the kids happy, and you get home with it and they're like, meh, especially with teenagers, right? So yeah, the answer to that question, why do some dads dip out, is because it's hard. Like, it costs money, like, it costs resources, it costs time, it costs energy, and it's not just deadbeat dads out there. There's just people all over the place who, if it's hard and it's going to take up resources they don't want to expend, they're not going to do it. And that's what it comes down to. I guess it really comes down to selfishness, right? Like, they want to do what they want to do, and, like, sorry, kid.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get past our selfish mindset. I think that when somebody gets in that predicament, maybe where they have kids and they didn't mean to have kids, I think maybe they need to get a little help to work through whatever, because that kid's coming and mom has to take care of the kids anyway, or somebody does. Boy, that's a big giant can of worms. That's a big, big problem in this world today. So somebody's shaking their head. I know when they're listening to that on here today. All right. So Jeremey, do you remember the question? Why do men
Yeah.
sometimes not step up to the plate?
I very much agree with Josh on that. He pretty much hit all the points I was going to hit.
That's why I went first.
We do seem to think a lot alike.
Well, I could think,
Yeah.
Jeremey, like responsibility.
Yeah, that's
freedom.
the thing, is that they don't want the responsibility. They want the freedom, and they're selfish people. And that normally there are extenuating circumstances, but normally that's the reason people don't step up and do what they're supposed to do as a parent. It pretty much comes down to they're selfish.
Yeah, and we're all selfish in one way or another.
100%.
So I'm not picking all the dads out there, but yeah, I think we just go back to the importance of fathers.
If there's a deadbeat dad watching this podcast right now, you have the
better.
ability to change. You have the ability to start to invest in your children's lives. Thing is, it's kids are kids for quite some time. So, like, even if they're adult children, like, you can try to make amends, right? So, I mean, like, just because you've been doing something wrong for 10 years doesn't mean you have to keep doing it wrong. So, encouragement to the dads who maybe are not as involved. Like, hey, go get involved. Be a parent.
All right, Josh. So I certainly like that, because if you've been doing it wrong, you don't have to keep doing it wrong. And you know what? It starts in your heart, changing our heart, changing our thoughts, changing our minds, right? Okay, well, the next question I have for you, what are the responsibility of fathers? In this day and time, women are working and they're staying at home, but it's not a given. It used to be a given that dad went to work and mom stayed at home, did the household. That's why she was called a homemaker. She made the home, took care of the kids, cooked the food, washed the dishes, and made the house a home. But these days, often there's two parents working and they bring their monies together, or sometimes couples keep their money separate. Um, so what are the responsibility of fathers in the household today? What do y'all think?
Um, I would say I know that both of our spouses are stay-at-home moms, but I I would say that I try to pick up the slack wherever she needs help in the house, and then do the outside work and that kind of stuff. But mainly, if she needs help, she tells me, and then I help her with whatever she needs.
And so, Jeremy, let me ask you, did you guys talk about that? About, hey, I'll do this part and you do that part, or it just kind of worked its way out?
Um, we mostly laid out what who was going to do what and that kind of thing, with her being a stay-at-home mom, because being a stay-at-home mom is your job kind of when you're a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
So
100% it's your
you
job.
know I'm just uh these are things that need to get done around the house, and I understand 100%. I'm a team player. If you're behind and you need me to help you with something, you let me know, I'll help you 100%.
So,
Like,
willingness to help.
yes, I'm always willing to help, except for with laundry. I don't like folding clothes.
But
I will wash them and I will dry them. I don't want to fold them.
I run loads of
That's the only
laundry.
thing I don't do.
I run the loads of laundry. I'll put them in the washer, switch them over, take them out of the dryer. But I hate folding them, especially like little pieces of clothing, which are obviously not mine.
Tiny clothes.
So, but and
Socks.
so very much so, a dad's role in the house is, mom is typically the one. The natural role of things is mom is typically the one who's dealing with children the most. So for me, I think Justine and I very much fall into those natural roles of like she's dealing with children and I am her backup, almost like a hype man, like I'm so she's yelling at the kids and I pop out and I yell at them too. Not literally, but so I mean it's to back her up and to make sure that things are enforced. And like as dads, we're kind of like the enforcers, right? We're bigger, our voices are gruffer. Charlie just today was jumping on her bed and having a good old time, and Justine's like, come on, we gotta go, and she kind of like slowed down but didn't stop, and then I barked in and immediately she stops. Same thing, she was trying to climb the stairs the other day.
Bigger voice.
I poked my head in from the door and said, Charlie, get down those stairs. I don't have to be gruff with it, right? So I think as dads, we're kind of that enforcer. And again, just like we talked about with our dad, showing us how to treat people. I think it's the responsibility of both parents, really, but it's definitely part of being a dad is showing your kids how to have healthy relationships. And how do you have
I would
healthy
agree.
relationships? Yeah, you communicate, you are kind, you think of other people, you are thoughtful. So essentially the opposite of selfish, right? So like it's hard to have healthy relationships when you only worry about you.
Yeah.
So I think to be a good dad or mom, you have to have a certain air of selflessness about you to understand that no, I'm not going to get a thank you, and no, no one may ever appreciate the things that I'm doing, but I'm doing them because I love my children, right?
That's
So
it.
that's where it comes from. It comes from you love your children, you do these things, even though you're well aware that it may never come back to you. So like whether it does or not, it doesn't matter. And so I think that's the main purpose of a dad, right? Is to enforce what mom is saying, to back mom up, to help wherever help is needed, and like we said about our dads, is to be there, right? To show up.
Mhm.
Being a dad is a lot easier than being a mom. You show up and people think you're the greatest dad in the world because you're there. We don't have to like pack specialty lunches. We don't have to do all those things. But it is amazing the number of dads who don't, which is why the standard's so low. So I'm in favor of raising the standard that dads should be, you know, held a little more accountable for some things.
Well, sometimes if I think about my own dad, when he came in from working all day, I remember him sitting in his lazy boy chair and popping his feet up. And actually, he would take a nap because he'd been on his feet all day running around a warehouse.
He was
Um,
still doing that when we were kids.
yeah, but whenever I think about a father's duty, and we all go back to our own dad. What did our own dad do? And so, pretty much, my dad provided for our family, and my mom, daddy, kind of helped us learn to be great shoppers so we could save money. But at the same time, mother probably wrote out the bills, and then she kept the house and did that kind of thing. And when we were teenagers, she went to work and she worked a little bit too. So, dads are providers, they're protectors, they are the enforcer because they're bigger and gruffer. But it's like just like there can be hard and hard nosed, they can also be loving and kind and a great example. So, all right, so that's great, guys. All right, so as we get towards the end here, what do you need? What do you need? Did you hear that? Can you hear that? What do you need as a father? Sometimes as parents, period, we're given, and we don't stop to think, what do we need? So what do men need besides, that one thing we all know about? What else
Text
do
messages.
men need from their family? What do fathers need?
Love and support. That's what I would say. Like, and respect. Respect.
Just take them all. Just take all the good ones.
You didn't get to say nothing. Okay, so I like to expound on it because love first, we all need to be loved. Respect. When we are respected and we treat others with respect, we treat others with respect. I think we receive respect. I think if there's a disrespectful parent, in any way, when you are disrespectful to your wife or your husband or your kids, I think that eventually they don't give you respect, right? But yeah, so fathers need respect and love. What else you think, Josh?
Well, Jeremey took all the best ones, but yeah, I mean, love, respect, support.
Support.
I think different fathers need different things, just like different people need different things, right? So it really comes down to, if you're talking about your own spouse, like for instance, with dad, dad needs you to tell him to stop every once in a while because he doesn't stop. And I kind of have the same issue. And my wife has to say, hey, you should relax for a little bit. Because if I have tasks in front of me, I'm going to keep doing them. Like as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to go work on something else. And I just finished work right before we started this call.
And it's
And
like
that's just
you need rest, whether you will actually give it to yourself or not. Yeah.
and I've learned to listen to my wife because there have been times when I've worked myself sick. Like I just worked and worked and worked, and eventually your body catches up with you and says, "Hey, we're not doing this no more. We're going to take a break whether you want to or not." So, again, I think that's just one example of different dads need different things, and it also plays into what roles are established in your household because there are some dad roles, I think, like being the enforcer I talked about earlier, that are gender specific, but there's a lot of roles in the household. Like I do a lot of the grocery shopping in my house. One, because I enjoy it because I like food so much. But two, I'm just a savvy shopper. I'm clipping coupons. I'm doing those things, and like I actually kind of enjoy doing it, which is kind of an outside the box role that I don't think most dads do that.
I was just thinking that.
So
I'm also a savvy shopper. I like to credit Mom and Leroy.
Oh, that's my dad. Leroy's my dad. He taught me to shop and I taught everybody else to shop, right?
Yeah, and it's served us well. So so again, it's based upon, but I think all dads, what Jeremey said, love, respect, and support. And yeah, we do have feelings. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so this is a big one, and I kind of touched it a minute ago, but it's really important. How do you gain respect as a father? How do you gain that respect?
I would say, for me, I feel like you earn respect by being a good father, and then instilling the values into your children to make them good people. You're going to get respect just from, the time you spend with them, the example you set. Like, you're going to have a child that respects you if you teach them to respect you. If you don't teach them to respect you, they're not going to respect you.
Okay. And so I'm going to jump in there on the respect you thing. And that comes from, since I have a lot of experience with children and grandchildren, respect you is that you don't let them talk back to you. And that starts when they're really small. At first, it's kind of funny when they're 2 or 3 years old, but you don't let them talk back to you. You just keep it that way. I can actually say that none of my kids talked back to me. I mean, like, yeah, Jeremey, I think we had a little encounter when you were like 16 and you were bigger than me and that kind of thing. But normally, y'all didn't talk back. So,
Mm-mm.
but I didn't allow that, and I still don't allow it with grandkids either. And so I've gotten into some spots sometimes, if but kids try you, they don't want to disrespect you. They want to be respectful. So you do have to hold tight to that. All right, Josh?
Kids crave boundaries. It's one of those weird sentences you say it and it sounds super strange. Like, why would kids crave boundaries? Because we have a need. It's a deep seated need inside them that they need the boundaries. And like you said, they want to know where they are. So I think mirroring what Jeremey said, you know, I'm a firm believer that you get what you give, right? Like,
Mhm.
and you can call it karma, you can call it reaping what you sow, whatever thing you want to put on there. But I think that applies to all relationships, including a father-child relationship. So if you are sowing love and kindness and trust, and you're
Woo.
sowing all those
Oh
things
yeah.
into your children, then those things will come back from your children, right? So I think that our parents did a pretty good job with that, and I think we're pretty well balanced people because of it. I think we had a very good childhood. It was very non-eventful, which is more than you could possibly ask, right?
No broke
So
bones.
we're we're very blessed in that. But I think just when you do things the right way, things work out for the better, and they work out how you would draw them up to work out. And if they don't, you've done everything you can. So either way, you've been successful. So I think just sowing those values into your children, and leading by example,
Yes.
because if I'm telling my children you shouldn't talk to people this way, and then someone comes through our door and I'm yelling swear words at these people,
Woo.
whether they deserve it or not doesn't matter. The intentions don't matter. That those things don't matter. What matters is what your kids see, and what they see, they're going to do. So if you aren't leading by example, it all comes to naught for anything anyway, because they're going to do what you do.
Yeah, I would say that our kids are definitely a reflection of us. Like, you can't tell your kids to do one thing and then do another thing because they are going to do what you do and not what you said to do. Right? Yeah. So I totally agree with that.
Great.
And I think there's just not enough respect in the world these days. Yeah, I can respect myself, I can respect others, and really it just begins and ends with that, doesn't it?
And even talking about not enough respect in the world, it starts with people respecting themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So the last thing is, you know, I teach on the communication styles, I teach on personality styles. And what I have found is that, a lot of times we compare ourselves to other people and we always think that somebody else has got a better talent than we do and we want to be like them. But the truth is that everybody has a superpower, something that they're really good at. And sometimes we're humble and we don't like to say what it is. But a lot of times that superpower is something that we do for other people, even. So, what do you think your superpower as a dad is?
Patience.
Patience. That's a good one.
I have an abnormal amount of patience and an abnormally long fuse to make me angry. I would actually say my wife's never seen me fully angry. We've
Ooh,
been married for almost 3 years, been together for 4. She's never seen me fully angry. Um, you know, I don't know. I think that's another thing I learned from Dad was about like truly letting things go. Things that don't matter or that you have no control over, letting it go. And I think that goes a long way in the patience category, because if you are at peace with that and you're legitimately letting things go and not just burying them deep down inside, I think that patience comes really easy, because you realize that, yeah, there's a baby screaming. I mean, Charlie was screaming at 1:30 in the morning the other night. And like, I was actually kind of laughing because like she was being so ridiculous, pitching a fit. And I don't know if she was having a bad dream. I don't know what was going on with her. But it's one of those like just kind of laugh, because I can get mad. What's that going to do, right? So there's no. Maybe it's just how my brain works in a logical sense of like there's no logical reason to be angry here because there's nothing to be angry about. She's won.
right.
So things like that, but it's not
Yeah,
infinite. It's not infinite. I have times where I gotta walk away and come back.
absolutely. And of course, I think about I'm pretty patient, except for don't mess with me after like 12 o'clock midnight. I turn into the gremlin. If you wake me up, I'm not very happy about it, right? Now, I remember back to whenever you guys were little, it's kind of hard to get woke up in the middle of the night. So, all right, Jeremy.
Um, I would actually probably agree with Josh. I have a lot of patience.
Oh, come on, Jeremy. You got to
But
think
less
of another
less
super.
less
Hold on,
than me
I have
then.
other ones, but um, I just wanted to come like do something off the patience thing. Like, I feel like our dad always had a lot of patience until he didn't. And I feel like I'm exactly the same way. I'm very patient and very patient. I'm very patient. And then after a certain amount, I'm no longer patient and I'm no longer rational.
I think
So,
I think I'm relating to that too. Whenever I had 3 little kids, I was patient, and then I was not.
but
That's when I
I
yelled.
I'd say my dad's superpower is probably that when I yell, things get done. Like my wife Amanda can like talk and yell and be mad for 25 minutes. Nothing has gotten done. I can walk in there, I yell a couple times, and things are getting done right away. I don't know what it is, but something about
Wow, that's
when
what it is.
your dad yells at you, like you just do it because you're like, oh,
Fear.
dad doesn't yell at me that often, and I'm getting yelled at by dad, so I better get this done.
They've
Fear.
escalated the problem to management.
It's fear. Fear of dads. Okay, so yeah, the dad is the bigger size person. Men are bigger than women, right? So, well, it's been fun. And as we, talk about dads and the importance of fatherhood, and I'm going to go back to something Josh said earlier, where, if we've not been the best dad, you can't go back and change anything, but you can change how you're doing things now, and you can move forward with more patience, a better attitude, more respect, and that kind of thing. So, thank you guys. We actually did this podcast the other day in person, and we had a fan above our head, and it was making a noise. And we couldn't use that podcast, so we're kind of doing this for the second time. So, thank you guys for being on the Extraordinary Marriage Podcast. And I'm Connie, and I hope that you guys will join us next time in podcast 38. We are starting to follow another agenda, and every single week there's going to be some kind of problem, and we're going to solve it. We're going to work on solving that problem, because there's a lot of challenges in marriages when you bring two people together from two different families, from different personality styles. So I'm Connie, and I'll see you next week.
Happy birthday!
Oh, it is my birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. By the way, Jeremy, what kind of drink do you have? It's the exact same drink. I saw you take a drink of it earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. I'm drinking the exact same thing."